Welcome back, Vanessa. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my office, my new office. Please make yourself comfortable. Okay. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for asking. So I'm gonna reiterate this. I mentioned to you last week, but one more time. Everything we do say here is gonna be confidential, unless at any time I feel like you're at danger to yourself or to somebody else. Okay?
Okay.
Well, I am glad to see you here again this week. Halloween's coming up. Is that something you celebrate?
Yeah, I kind of celebrate it.
Well, you kind of celebrate it. Well, do you and your families have any kind of Halloween tradition?
What do you mean?
Like, so for example, I love Halloween. Like in October, I try to watch as many scary movies as possible. I get together and like my wife, her best friend usually throws a Halloween party, and so we try to dress up for that. And now that we have kids, we try to dress them up and take them out trick or treating. Do you have any kind of things that you do around this time of the year?
Yeah, I usually go to my uncle, which I call my tío. And they usually have a block party, which all the neighbors get together. It's a gated community, and all the little kids go trick or treating. And I don't know. I just really kind of also don't really care for Halloween, but I I go for the food.
Oh, you don't really care for it though? Why not?
I don't really like dressing up, and I feel like it's overrated. And I just also don't like scary things or scary movies.
Mm. Well, what is your favorite holiday then?
It's Christmas.
Oh, okay. What about Christmas makes it your favorite holiday?
I love the decorations, decorating the tree. My dad always tries to buy the biggest and fluffiest tree and the one that smells the best. And then I usually am the one in charge of decorating all our things for Christmas. I also help my mom shop for all of the Christmas presents. So we have a joke that I'm the elf for Santa. And then so we start celebrating Christmas Eve, going into Christmas Day. But usually during the middle of Christmas Day, we kind of just relax, and then on Christmas night, we go watch movies. But I also don't really like going to the movies. But it's a tradition that I just love, and it's my favorite time. Just the spirit of it just makes me so happy every time.
All right. Well, as a Halloween fan, I was a little skeptical of you choosing Christmas over it, but I think you made a pretty good case for why Christmas is pretty good for you. I'm starting to appreciate the holiday more now that I have children of my own, and like we can start building customs and traditions, kind of like what you described there. So talking about traditions though, like traditions are like repeated events, right? They're customs, behaviors, and last week we were talking about a repeated behavior. It was a pattern you had in yourself related to anxiety. How was this last week for you?
For the most part, it was pretty good until yesterday. The girls never made any comments to me in class or after class. But there was one time that they were looking at me quickly, and I started to feel anxiety building up. But I decided to remember the breathing techniques you told me, and it really didn't get to me. But yeah, things were going well. And yesterday, I sort of had a breakdown, and that's basically it.
What happened yesterday?
Well, just from like a bunch of things, numerous basically. Um, I was feeling overwhelmed, tired to do the breathing as well. I kind of stopped it, and because I felt like it just wasn't helping. Um, just in general, yesterday though.
Oh, I'm sorry those exercises weren't helping this time. You mentioned that you were feeling overwhelmed, though. Can you describe what you were feeling when you were overwhelmed?
Uh, well, it like feels like a weight of everything was on my shoulders and in my head and crushing me down while removing my head from my body. It's hard to describe. It's like I wasn't even in my own body. Moving through emotions, I just wanted to hide from everyone.
And are you feeling this way right now?
Kind of. Not, not really. Not as bad as yesterday.
Okay, and was there something in particular that triggered this overwhelming feeling?
Yeah, my friend Paul actually asked me out to homecoming.
Okay.
Mm, so he asked me out to homecoming, and I told him I didn't want to go. I felt really bad because he looked sad. It's not him though, I just don't want to go. And then on top of that, my friends, Vivian and Sam, my sisters and mom, were making me feel bad for not wanting to go and for saying that I didn't want to go. I guess it's a combine. Um, well, I guess it just all basically combined. And just things just set me off.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing all that with me. It's okay that you don't want to go to the dance, and it's okay that you turned down your friend. And there's no rule that says that you have to do any of these things. I don't. I just don't want to pose this question to you as if you're doing something wrong. Okay. So rather, what's the reason you're choosing to skip the dance?
I don't really know. I just don't want to. Yeah, I just don't want to.
Okay.
Well, actually, I actually get a lot of anxiety, and I don't feel comfortable going to a social event like this with other students. I don't even really like being here at the school, and to go to a dance, it's just really hard for me. Back in the sixth grade, I went to a dance, and I just realized I hated it so much.
What about that dance did you hate?
Just everything. Dancing in a group. Um, I don't really like dancing. I can feel everyone's eyes on me, which it just hurts. Then when there is a slow song, everyone was getting asked to slow dance with them, and I felt extra anxious, waiting if someone was going to ask me. And of course, no one did, and you know, it's fine because, like I said, I don't like dancing, and the whole thing just felt uncomfortable.
Okay. And did you share any of this with Paul or your sisters or friends?
No, not really. I told Paul and everyone else that maybe next year I will be ready. I don't think I'll be. I just hate that they have to all make me feel bad about it. I hate letting people down, especially my mom. But I just don't want to do this.
I continue to be impressed with how well you're able to express yourself to me about what you're going through. It's not easy for everybody to do it that way. I mean, even if you aren't expressing some of these thoughts and feelings to others in your life, I'm glad that you're able to do it here. Speaking of which, last week I gave you an assignment to write in a journal. Have you been keeping up with that?
Yeah, I did most of the days, but not really every day. I didn't do it yesterday though.
Okay. I don't see you here with anything, so I'm assuming you didn't bring it in. But how did you feel about doing it the days that you did do it?
I thought it was actually helpful. I wrote down my thoughts. It was kind of hard sometimes, but I didn't not like doing it. It was just hard for me to do it each night.
Okay, I understand. It's hard to make anything into a routine. When you wrote down your thoughts, though, what did it make you feel about those thoughts?
It actually made me feel like the way I was thinking was kind of, sorry to say the word, but I actually felt like the way I felt was stupid.
Okay, you can say whatever words you want in this space. But why do you think it made you feel that way?
It's basically like the things I worry about sound so stupid writing down on a piece of paper. I don't know why I get so worked up about the dumbest of things.
Okay, well, like I told you last week, you may not be able to choose how you feel about certain events, but as you work on yourself, you may be able to change how you think and act on those things. The fact that you're able to recognize that there may be some sort of a disconnect between how you're thinking and feeling in the moment versus what you realize is rational thinking, that means that you're already on this positive path.
Yeah, I guess if you say.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how you were feeling when people were giving you a hard time about not being able to go to the dance.
Okay.
Why do you think your family and friends were giving you a hard time about not going to the dance?
They think I'm just being shy or scared to have fun. They say that I'm missing out on the high school experience.
Hmm. And do you think that you're missing out on the high school experience?
I don't really care if I'm missing out on it. I don't like school. I haven't ever really liked school. My sisters like school. My sisters are a lot different than I am. I just can't wait for this to be over with.
What do you wish that you're doing instead?
Don't really know. I know that it's just not school right now, though. I like helping people, so maybe I can find something where I'm helping people.
So there's different ways of getting careers and helping others. Though a large number of those jobs, they do revolve around school, maybe a master's degree, bachelor's degree at least. But what do you think about that?
Just very sounds very miserable.
Well, as I said, there's different ways to get those types of careers, so it doesn't necessarily mean that's your path. You might just have to carve out one of your own so you can avoid school. But what is it about school that you just don't like?
It's it's just hard for me to be here. Every day I'm just feeling anxiety about one thing or other. People don't like me or they just don't get me. I don't think I would like me either.
What about your friends? Paul, Sammy, Vivian?
Well, Paul is actually not a close friend. He's great, but not like Sammy and Vivian. We've been best friends since third grade. They are part of school I like the most, but we barely even get to see each other at school anymore. At least I can talk to them on the phone, or social networking, like Instagram, if you know what that is.
I really know a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, I only see them during break and don't have the same lunch period, unfortunately, like them.
Okay, and who do you sit with at lunch then?
I'll sit with my sister, which her name is Bianca, and her friends.
Okay, and do her friends talk to you too?
Yeah, a little bit. They try to talk to me, but I don't really like talking to them. It just gives me just too much anxiety.
Why do you think these situations give you so much anxiety?
I don't know, it just does. I feel like not worthy enough for them, and I have nothing to add to their conversations. I don't like the things they like. I don't know what to say.
Now, okay, I want to try something with you right now. Let's say that one of Bianca's friends talks to you. Normally you answer their question, but you don't really engage in further conversation, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's imagine you do engage in conversation. You follow up their question with a question of your own, related to theirs or not. Any question to keep the conversation going. Let's play it out. What's the worst thing that can happen?
The worst thing that can happen? Well, I can ask them the dumbest question in the world, and then they think I'm a big weirdo.
Do you think you are weirder? Do you think they think you're even weirder than they already think you are for not talking to them?
Yeah. But then, what now? Well, Yeah, well, they already think I'm weird, but then they would know I'm weird too.
Okay, so they might think you're weird, but now they'll know you're weird, is what you think. So what's the worst that could happen that they know you're weird?
Well, if they know that I'm weird, maybe they will tell other people about how weird I am, and then everyone will know, and then they will talk about me, and then my anxiety will be triggered everywhere I go.
Okay, that does seem like something bad that could happen. Does it get worse than that?
Actually, if I am having all of the anxiety, then I will probably start failing more of my classes and then get in trouble once again by my parents.
Okay, and does it get any worse than that?
I don't know. I just really don't know what I'm failing grades will do to my future.
Okay, well, I mean, to reiterate what you said earlier, is that you're not really interested in going to school after high school, right?
As of right now, I don't think so anymore.
Okay, so maybe your grades don't end up being as big of a factor to your future. Now let's unpack the rest of that. So, in the event that a question you ask your sister's friend is so odd that they think you're weirder than they already think you are, and then they spread that information to the entire school, and the entire school cares enough about that odd question to make fun of you to the point that it's causing you severe anxiety attacks, to that point that you're failing all your classes and getting trouble from your parents. Are you still mostly okay? Are you still alive? Do you still have a chance to move forward from that?
Guess when you put it that way.
So, like, what we did was this what's the worst that could happen exercise. Anxiety often is like this voice in our head that's telling us all these things that are going to happen that most likely won't even happen. When you feel anxiety coming on about something, try to ask yourself what's the worst that could really happen. Play it out. See how bad it gets. And then ask yourself, am I still okay? You know, I think you'll find that usually you are. Usually it's the anxiety that's trying to make you feel like things are going to be so much worse than they actually are or ever really will be.
Yeah, that's actually really so true.
Um, as we wrap up today's session, I do want to talk to you about another exercise that I want you to start working on in small steps. Let's work on some behavior modification with something called exposure therapy. Do you know what that is?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so, but okay, so sometimes the only way that we can kind of push through anxieties is we have to force ourselves to be in scenarios that we typically avoid. So now I'm not talking about your homecoming dance, like that's around the corner and that sounds like a big step, and maybe that's too big of a step for you at this time, and that's totally okay. But let's start small. I want you this week to identify a situation where you would normally avoid or hide from due to your anxiety. And then I want you to make a stride at placing yourself in that uncomfortable scenario. So, for example, at lunch when you're with Bianca's friends, rather than sitting there quietly, you can try to ask a question to somebody in the group or the whole group and join in on the conversation. It doesn't have to be that, and it doesn't have to be big. It can just be something, and that's an example of what you could do. How does that sound?
Actually, sounds very terrifying.
Well, you know, it should be, and it should be a bit terrifying, and because sometimes the only way we can kind of overcome some of our fears and our anxieties is just by doing it. And so, exposure therapy is what it is. You're exposing yourself to the thing that is causing you some stress. Do you want to try this out?
Okay, I will give it a try.
Perfect. So I do want you to continue with your breathing exercises. As I told you last week, the more practice you do, the better it'll help you. And then I also want you to keep writing in your journal. Even if you can't do it every day, just don't write it off as a failure. Just try to set aside a few minutes every night before you go to bed, or when you're using the restroom even. Just jot a few things down.
Okay.
So, all right. Thank you for coming in this week, and I'll be talking with you next week, okay? Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. I hope that was 20 minutes. I don't know if it was.